and welcome to another edition of Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm your host for today, Will Weisbaum, senior writer here at CIG in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California. On today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Elysium, which is a fantastic system for all its history. Let's go take a look at it now. So we're starting off on Earth, this beautiful blue marble we all call home, but not for much longer, as we're going to expand out through the stars. Let's go. To Elysium. How about that? Magic. So it is a 5-planet system that was discovered way back in November 15th, 2541. And what was so noteworthy about this system upon its discovery was that it was inhabited. It was not an empty system. We quickly learned that there was another spacefaring race who called themselves the Tavaran, living on Elysium IV, or as they called it, Calith, or Calith, depending on whether you want to use the right or incorrect pronunciation. So the UPE, the United Planets of Earth, the government at the time, were very excited to discover a whole new race. They were spacefaring technology-wise, but not quite as advanced as us humans, and we thought it was a great opportunity to expand our reach and incorporate an entirely new alien species into our civilization. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way because the Tavaran attacked us. They wanted what we have, and it was a full all-out war, our first interspecies war, and it was terrible. But what came out of it was the rise of a young Colonel Ivar Messar, who rose through the ranks and became the hero of the war at the famous Battle of Idris IV, where he managed to turn the tide of the offensive and really stick it to those Tavaran. And even though the Tavaran weren't as technologically advanced as we were, they were brilliant strategists and were able to hold out much longer than anyone thought, even taking over human systems and driving our forces back. So by the end of these 4 years, we were able to conquer them. We sent them fleeing out into the verse, hiding in various places in Banu and Xi'an space. So after that moment, we started colonizing and terraforming worlds that were formerly part of the Tavaran Empire, were now part of the human empire, as Ivar Messar had now become the Imperator and had transformed the United Planets of Earth eventually into the United Empire of Earth. Now, everything seemed to be going well as humans settled into Elysium until around 2603, when the Tavaran returned with a vengeance, and they had a new leader. And they had a new leader called Karith Tal, who was dead set on reclaiming the Tavaran homeworld for his people. And he burned a path through the stars, fighting his way towards Elysium. There was in Centauri, the famous Battle of Centauri, where Squadron 42 had their first major victory ever in shutting down the Tavaran offensive after a grueling 7 years of fighting. Rather than accept the defeat there, the Tavaran pushed through the jump in Centauri and fought their way towards their home planet, knowing that it was a doomed effort, until they finally turned on their shields. Oh, whoops, that was null. They did not go to null. However, they did go to Elysium, where eventually they turned off their shields and crash landed onto the planet, burning up in the skies of Elysium IV, which some of you may have seen in the famous painting that commemorated the moment that was called Tears of Fire. Some of you may have seen the famous moment of the ships crashing into the planet's atmosphere and burning up in the famous painting Tears of Fire that commemorated this historic moment. So after the Second Tavaran War, the Tavaran were pretty much shattered, and humanity was kind enough to offer them a place amongst us as a subjugated people, which catches up to 2610, So that's a little bit of the backstory that marks Elysium. Let's go now and start looking at the system itself. Currently it's got 4 known jump points, one between Elysium and Centauri, another between Elysium and Lyra, an Elysium Idris jump point, and an Elysium Vanguard jump point, which is a little bit telling about how the system works. The Vanguard one, of course, is Vanduul space, which is a threatening area. Centauri itself is a pretty happening system. It's home to MISC, so there's a lot of business traffic that flows through there. In Lyra is kind of an outsider system, home, in fact, to the outsiders. So traffic to there is a little bit odd, to say the least. And finally, there's Idris, which still is trying to regain its footing after the Battle of Idris IV, which left it terribly scarred. So a medium amount of traffic heading in and out of the system, which is Elysium is still today trying to find its footing in the Empire. It's known mostly for its historical significance, but it's trying to forge ahead and define itself in the world of 2946. So let's look at the sun now. So the Elysium star is an F-type main sequence star. It's 1 to 1.4 times the mass of our sun with a white to yellow light. It burns hotter and faster than our sun, so it's going to give it a little bit of a shorter lifespan than you would expect for our system. But of course, the shorter lifespan in terms of the galaxy is still billions and billions of years. 2 to 4 billions to be precise, or unprecise as I gave a range of numbers instead of an exact one. Now, next up, moving away from the star, is we have Elysium I, which is kind of a cool planet in itself, in that it is a hot Jupiter in classification, also known as a migrating gas giant that was believed to have been formed in the outer reaches of the system and then migrated inward, sweeping up loose planets and stuff in its path until it settled in very close to the star itself, only about 0.1 AU away. This means that its surface gas is very hot, creating a lot of wind circling around and a very even surface temperature. So it'll be interesting trying to fly there to harvest things because of its proximity to the sun. From Elysium I, we're going to head on out to Elysium II, which is a coreless planet. Coreless doesn't mean that it's hollow on the inside. It means that it just doesn't have a magnetic core, so it's solid throughout without a spinning core like Earth has. This means it's kind of a bit of a dead, lifeless rock in the system floating around. Some mining to be done there, but it still hasn't been heavily developed yet. Its surface is heavily impacted by craters, which have led many scientists to speculate that there was some significantly large impact in its past, but the Tavaran records don't indicate anything during their time, and scientists are still trying to work out exactly what happened through research. So, heading out from Elysium II, we're going to head over to Voska, Elysium III, which is a desert planet, which is really cool. When we took over this system from the Tavaran, this world was pretty much left alone. It was desert, arid, really warm, very little water, and it seems that the Tavaran did not have terraforming technology like we did. So when the UEE took over, one of the things they did was terraform the planet. Now, a lot of its surface is sparsely inhabited. It's still, even though it's terraformed, it's still a very rough place to live. Very little when it comes in terms of water. There is some water mining going on at the polar caps, but they're pretty small. A lot of the water has to be either shipped in on haulers or from water harvesting units that are sprouted throughout the desert. One of the major landing zones on the planet is Rez's Landing, which is an archaeology built by Rayari Inc., used to mine some of the resources in the planet. It's been digging itself deeper and deeper as the years goes, as it struggles to find more and more resources to harvest. It is represented in the Senate, so even though it's sparsely populated, it does have representation in the Senate. Moving on from this desert world, we're going to head probably to the highlight of the system, which is Jaalin. Now, Jaalin is formerly for the Tavaran Caliph. It was their homeworld, and to date it probably houses more Tavaran architecture and historical sites than any other planet in the system. Big part of this is due to the Tavaran Purge, where after the Second Tavaran War, a lot of the remaining Tavaran sought to free themselves from their connection to their past, as it had failed them so much, and a lot of these important sites were destroyed by the Tavaran themselves. However, because Jaalin was in human control at the time, a lot of these sites were preserved for future generations to appreciate. The main city on Jaalin is the capital, Gemma, which hosts a major temple upon a mount, which from searching through the Tavaran records, we know they chose the site because of its strategic importance, that it was well fortified and easy to defend rather than any kind of beautiful vista or religious significance. The temple is a Rajoran temple, which was the battle religion of the Tavaran. It's a major tourist site today, and a lot of preservation efforts are currently going on to save the Tavaran artifacts from being destroyed just from ship traffic and people walking around. So there's a major effort right now to conserve the sites, even though that goes against kind of one of the major industries on Gemma, which is tourism. So trying to balance those two is an issue that's going on. Landing in Gemma will appear different than landing in other worlds because the landing port is designed to blend into the Tavaran architecture, so that's kind of neat. One of the major things that you might have been reading about recently is the upcoming election that's happening on Jaalin for a Senate seat. The election's coming up on May 3rd, so debates are starting to heat up across the spectrum as people decide which candidate to support. Of note is the fact that it's the first Tavaran running to be Senator CIG Kosi, and he is an ex-military man, served in the Navy, and he has a criminal background himself before he earns citizenship. So he's offering a lot of hope to the Tavaran out there for bettering their lives in the UEE. A lot of people are still holding grudges for those two wars, so it'll be interesting to see whether he's able to gain the seat or not. He is a centralist and has a lot of core beliefs and believes in the strength of the military and in the central government. He's going against two other candidates. One, Sheikh Marigold, who's more of a transitionalist and is looking to curtail military spending in light of the new war with the Vandal and really focus in on rebuilding the social structures that are needed. There's a lot of unemployment and poverty going on in Jaalin, as the system itself hasn't really struck its economic foothold yet outside of its Tavaran artifacts and tourism. The third candidate is Gabrielle Garcian, who is a centralist. She served on the Governor's Council for a while and has the backing of the current administration. A lot of people are a little bit wary of electing her because they fear that it'll be a return to the norm, but she has a lot of experience, whereas the other two candidates don't as much. So moving on from Jaalin, we're gonna head way out, 12.6 AU out, to Elysium V, which is a dwarf planet lurking way out in the stretches of the system, and it is a small rocky body. So there you are. That is the Elysium system, and I hope I was able to enlighten you on some of its finer points today, and that you enjoyed taking this Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy journey with me. Thank you so much.